Chapter 9. Australia. A quick glance. Introduction. Location of Australia. Boundaries of Australia. Political divisions of Australia. Physical features of Australia. The Great Barrier Reef. Case study: sheep rearing in Australia. Australia is the smallest continent in the world. It lies entirely in the southern and eastern hemisphere. It is also known as the island continent. It is the only continent in the world to be occupied by a single country. It is the sixth largest country in the world and is about twice the size of India. Its name is derived from the Latin word Australias, which means of the south. Australia lies between the Pacific and Indian Oceans. The island state of Tasmania, which is a part of the Australia continent, is separated from the mainland by the Bass Strait. Australia is separated from Indonesia to the northwest by the Timor and Arafura Seas, from Papua New Guinea to the northeast by the Coral Sea and the Torres Strait, from the Coral Sea Island Territory by the Great Barrier Reef, from New Zealand to the southeast by the Tasman Sea, and from the Antarctica in the far south by the Indian Ocean. Several islands are situated to the southeast of the continent. Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, and the group of islands in the South Pacific Ocean are together called Oceania. Australia, New Zealand, and the nearby islands in the Pacific Ocean are together called Australias. Australia has also been nicknamed as the last of lands because it was the last continent, apart from Antarctica, to be explored by the Europeans. The indigenous Australians have inhabited the continent for tens of thousands of years. It is presumed that Aboriginal people who may have come from Asia arrived in Australia about 60,000 years ago and made their settlements in well-favored locations. The first documented landing in Australia by an European was in 1606, when a Dutch navigator, Willem Janszoon, landed on the western side of Cape York Peninsula. After him, many Dutch explorers sailed along the northern, western, and coastlines of the continent. The first recorded explorer and navigator to reach the eastern coast in 1770 was a British seaman named Captain James Cook. He named the land New South Wales, which became the first colonial settlement of the British Empire in the country. By 1829, the British Empire also established its control over the western part of Australia. In the early 1850s, there was a huge migration of many Europeans to Australia after gold was found in this continent. By 1859, these new migrants established 6 separate colonies. In 1901, these 6 colonies joined to form a federation, and the Commonwealth of Australia was established as a dominion of the British Empire. Later, on the 3rd of March, 1986, the Australia Act, 1986, came into effect, granting Australia legal independence from the United Kingdom. This brought an end to all the constitutional ties between Australia and Britain, and henceforth, Australia could manage its own political affairs independently without any interference from Britain. Historically, a part of the British Empire and now a member of the Commonwealth, Australia is a relatively prosperous and independent country. Location. Geographically, Australia is located entirely in the southern and eastern hemispheres of the Earth. It is completely surrounded by the Indian and the Pacific Ocean in the east, and a series of bays, Gulf Seas, and straits. It extends from 10 degrees S to 44 degrees S latitude and from 112 degrees E to 154 degrees E longitude. The Tropic of Capricorn passes almost through the middle of Australia. Thus, the southern half of the continent lies in the South Temperate Zone and the northern half lies in the tropical zone. Since the continent of Australia lies in the southern hemisphere, it has seasons that are just opposite to those of the northern hemisphere. When it is summer in Australia, the season in India, a country of northern hemisphere, is winter. Boundaries. Australia, the world's smallest island continent, is bordered by the Timor Sea and Arufa Sea in the north, the Coral Sea in the northeast, the Tasman Sea in the southeast, the Indian Ocean in the west, the Pacific Ocean in the east, and the Southern Ocean in the south. Australia has no land borders. The country shares maritime borders with East Timor, Indonesia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, and the islands of New Caledonia, a special collectivity of France. Political divisions. Australia, with a total area of 7,741,220 sq.km, is over twice the size of India. It is divided into 6 self-governing states and 2 centrally administered internal territories. The table given below shows the political divisions and their capitals. Self-governing states. Capital: 1. Queensland, Brisbane. 2. New South Wales, Sydney. 3. Victoria, Melbourne. 4. South Australia, Adelaide. 5. Western Australia, Perth. 6. Tasmania, Hobart. Internal territories. Capital: 1. Northern Territory, Darwin. 2. Australian Capital Territory, Canberra. There are a total of 86 cities in Australia, with 8 cities given the title of capital cities. The most populated cities are Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide, Canberra, Hobart, and Darwin. Melbourne was the capital of Australia for 26 years until 1927, when it changed to Canberra. The internal territories are large but thinly populated. Physical features of Australia. Australia is the flattest and the least mountainous continent in the world. The continent does not have high mountain ranges like the Andes in South America and extensive plateaus as in Africa. Most of the land in Australia has an average elevation of 300 m above sea level. Only about 6% of the land in the continent is 600 m above sea level. The continent is divided into 3 main physical divisions in order from west to east: the Western Plateau, the Central Lowlands, the Eastern Highlands. The Western Plateau. The Western Plateau covers the entire western part of Australia, occupying 2/3 of the continent, and has an average elevation of 360 m above sea level. It is a vast ancient plateau that includes Western Australia, Northern Territory, and a large part of South Australia, extending from Gulf of Carpentaria to Onslow, covering the cities of Perth and Albany. The flat plateau has an undulating surface with gentle slopes towards the east and consists of very old rocks like the Deccan Peninsula of India, and is very rich in minerals, particularly gold, uranium, iron ore, bauxite, lead, zinc, nickel, and copper. There are a few mountain ranges that rise above the plateau, like the Darling Range, MacDonnell Range, Hammersley Range, and the Musgrave Range. The most striking feature of this terrain is the world's largest single rock, called Ulu, also known as Ayers Rock, that is about 10 km in circumference. Much of the Western Plateau consists of hot deserts like the Great Sandy Desert, the Gibson Desert, the West Australian Desert, and the Great Victoria Desert. This region has a sandy and rocky surface and receives very scanty rainfall. The vegetation of this region consists of thorny shrubs and bushes such as thorny acacia, mulga, etc. In the southern part of the plateau, bordering the southern coast of Australia, is a treeless region called Nullarbor Plain. It is a limestone plateau with many caves formed by the action of water on limestone. The central lowlands extend from the Gulf of Carpentaria in the north to the southern coast of the continent. It is a low-lying region that lies between the Western Plateau and the Eastern Highlands. The average elevation of this entire region is less than 150 m above sea level. The region around Lake Eyre is below sea level. The central lowlands can be divided into 3 sections. The area in the northern part is drained by small rivers that flow into the Gulf of Carpentaria. The middle part is a large basin of inland drainage around Lake Eyre. The rivers of this region do not flow into the sea. They flow into the lakes of this region. The southern part is the drainage basin of the rivers Murray and Darling. Both these rivers originate in the Eastern Highlands and flow into the Indian Ocean. The river Murrumbidgee, which is a tributary of River Murray, also flows through the basin. The alluvial deposits brought down by these rivers have made this region very fertile. The Murray-Darling Basin is the most fertile region of Australia. River Darling is the longest river of Australia. There are several block mountains and rift valleys between the Western Plateau and the Murray-Darling Basin in the southern part of the central lowlands. Lake Eyre, Lake Torrens, and Spencer Gulf are the low-lying areas of the rift valleys that have been inundated by seawater or rainwater. A vast portion of the central lowlands, mainly in the states of Queensland and New South Wales, is an artesian basin called the Great Artesian Basin or the Great Australian Basin, which is the world's largest artesian basin and has vast reserves of underground water. An artesian basin is a flat land where a layer of porous rock exposed to the surface at one edge lies between 2 layers of non-porous rocks. The exposed edge of the porous rocks absorbs the rainwater falling on the Earth's surface and allows it to seep down the slope and get trapped between the layers of non-porous rocks, thus creating a huge reservoir of water in the porous rocks, as the layers of non-porous rocks above and below it do not allow the water to escape. This porous layer holding the water is called aquifer. As we know that water maintains its level, so when a well is dug at any level below the highest level of water in the aquifer, it automatically flows out like a fountain without the use of pump. Such a well is known as artesian well. The Eastern Highlands. The Eastern Highlands, also called the Great Dividing Range, extends parallel to the entire east coast of Australia, from Cape York Peninsula in the north to the Bass Strait in the south. These highlands are more like elevated plateaus than mountains, with an average altitude of 900 m. The highlands are more rugged and high in the southern part. This part of the Eastern Highlands is called Australian Alps. Another important range of this region is the Blue Mountains. Mount Kosciuszko is the highest peak in Australia with a height of 2,228 meters. It is located in the state of New South Wales in southeastern part of the country. The eastern slopes of these highlands are quite steep. Many small rivers flow swiftly down these slopes and fall into the Pacific Ocean. These rivers are harnessed for generating hydroelectricity. The western side of these highlands slope gently towards the central lowlands. The 2 major rivers flowing down these slopes towards the central lowlands are rivers Murray and Darling. the Great Barrier Reef. Apart from these three main physical features, another unique physical feature of Australia is the Great Barrier Reef, which lies off the northeast coast of Australia at a distance of 30 to 205 kilometers from the coast. It stretches under the shallow waters of the sea, spanning a distance of about 2,300 km. The reef is formed by the skeletal remains and hardened deposits of materials, calcium carbonate, secreted by tiny sea creatures called coral polyps. These coral polyps live near the sea floor in warm shallow waters. When they die, new polyps grow up and add to their deposits, which gradually develop in the form of a ridge on the ocean or sea floor. It is called the Great Barrier Reef because it acts as a barrier for the movement of the ships towards the coast. In spite of being a navigation hazard, it is a major tourist attraction because of its clear water, colorful corals, and beautiful marine. Case study: sheep rearing in Australia. Sheep rearing forms an important rural economic activity in arid, semi-arid and mountainous areas of Australia because large parts of the continent's interiors have grasslands where the animals can be reared. Australia has one of the largest population of domestic sheep in the world and is also the leading producer of wool in the world. Factors encouraging sheep farming. Sheep, with its multiple uses for wool, meat, milk, skin, and manure, form an important component of rural economy. Several factors are responsible for the development of sheep rearing and wool industry in Australia. The climate of Australia, particularly in the temperate regions of the continent, is ideal for sheep rearing. Many areas of this region provide good grazing grounds for sheep as they support a variety of thorny shrubs and short grasses. Moreover, the mild and dry climate of the region is ideal for wool production. Apart from the favorable natural and climatic conditions, there are many socio-economic advantages that have promoted sheep rearing in Australia. The presence of large markets for sheep products, well-developed transport system, and support given by the government in the form of various facilities and incentives have greatly favored sheep rearing in Australia. Major areas of sheep rearing. Sheep being an important component of rural economy, they are reared almost all over the Australia continent. The temperate grasslands called Downs of the Murray-Darling Basin have the largest concentration of sheep farms in Australia. Other important areas are parts of the southern, eastern and southwestern coasts. Improved pastures have been developed in coastal Victoria and New South Wales, which have relatively higher rainfall. These modern pastures are well suited to support a large number of sheep. In the regions with relatively low rainfall in the interior parts of Australia, including northwestern Victoria, western New South Wales, Queensland and large parts of Western Australia, vast natural pastures of short grasses and shrubs are found. This makes it a perfect pastoral zone of the continent because the vegetation here is adapted to the arid condition and allows grazing by the sheep even during droughts. Mainly Australian merino sheep, which give the best quality wool, are reared here. In the regions between the low rainfall and high rainfall zones, the farmers grow wheat along with rearing sheep. This zone is called wheat sheep zone. Once the wheat is harvested, the sheep are allowed to graze the wheat fields. Here the sheep are reared mainly for meat. Meat is produced in large quantities in New South Wales and Victoria. Breeds mainly reared for meat are Suffolk Dorper, Leicester Lincoln, etc. This meat is exported to different parts of the world in frozen form. Sheep farms. In Australia, sheep rearing is practiced in very large farms called sheep stations. Most of these sheep stations are situated in southeastern and southwestern regions, spreading over thousands of square kilometers. Most of these sheep stations are on public lands obtained on lease from the government for the purpose of grazing. This type of lease is called pastoral lease. Each sheep station is divided into a number of fields by fencing. The enclosed area within the fencing is called paddock. Each paddock can hold up to about 3,000 sheep, which may be moved to another paddock when grass and water become scarce in a paddock. Each sheep station is like a self-sufficient settlement with all the amenities for the workers and the managerial staff. It has houses and workshops for workers. It may also have farmhouses or outbuildings where the owner or the station manager can live with his family. There are shops for selling things of daily use and windmills for pumping water. It may even have an airstrip where small aeroplanes of the Royal Flying Doctor Service could land in case of medical emergency. Snippet: small aeroplanes help people living in remote settlements get timely and proper medical aid. All that the people have to do is contact medical base from where the doctors and medicines are immediately flown to the settlement. This is a free service called the Royal Flying Doctor Service. Organizational setup of sheep farms. A sheep farm, also called sheep station, may be owned and managed by an individual person and his family, or it may be owned by a pastoral company and managed by a station manager. The individual person who owns the sheep farm is known as grazier or pastoralist. The workers who herd and look after the sheep in a farm are called stockmen. In large farms stretched on a vast area, these stockmen move around on horses. Experienced stockmen called drovers move flocks of sheep over large distances, like to a new faraway paddock or to a new owner's farm or to the market. The act of moving flocks from one place to another is called droving. These stockmen look after the flocks of sheep with the help of trained dogs, mostly dingoes. Those workers who do the routine jobs like tending and feeding the sheep, mending fences, etc., are called station hands. Apart from all these skilled and trained people, there are many trainees who are still learning various jobs. They are known as jackaroos if they are males and jillaroos if they are females. A sheep station also employs other professionals like mechanics, cooks, and veterinary doctors. Shearing of sheep. Shearing is the process of removing fleece or woolly coat from the body of the sheep. The annual shearing season begins in late spring or early summer when the wool of the sheep grows thick. A person who specializes in this job is called a shearer. Normally, an adult sheep is sheared once in a year, but nowadays, if the management requires, sheep can be sheared in any season, provided that the climate is not too harsh. Most sheep farms have a shed specially designed for shearing called shearing shed. In old times, the shepherds with the help of their workers sheared their sheep using hand-operated blades. But nowadays, the techniques and tools used for shearing have improved. Now shearing is done by a team of expert shearers who use modern blades, power-driven clippers, and electric shearing machines. This has made the process of shearing faster. After shearing, the fleece or wool is cleaned of grease and dirt. It is then sorted and graded on the basis of quality. Then it is packed in bales and sent for sale to the market. Glossary. Aboriginal, people who have been living in a region from earliest times. Undulating, having a continuous up and down shape. Rugged, rough, with lots of rocks and not many plants. Aquifer, a body of rocks that hold groundwater. Coral polyps, tiny little aquatic animals that are related to anemones and jellyfish. Ridge, a long narrow raised part of a surface. Recap. Australia is the smallest continent and the sixth largest country of the world. The first documented landing in Australia by an European was in 1606 when a Dutch navigator, Willem Janssen, landed on the western side of Cape York Peninsula. The first recorded explorer and navigator to reach the eastern coast in 1770 was a British seaman named Captain James Cook. Geographically, Australia is located entirely in the southern and eastern hemisphere between the Indian Ocean in the west and Pacific Ocean in the east. Australia is divided into 6 self-governing states and 2 centrally administered internal territories. Australia is divided into 3 main physical divisions: Western Plateau, Central Lowlands, and Eastern Highlands. Another unique feature of Australia is the Great Barrier Reef, which lies off the north-east coast of Australia. Sheep rearing forms an important rural economic activity of Australia. Sheep rearing is practiced in very large farms called sheep stations. Each sheep station is like a self-sufficient settlement with all the amenities for the workers and the managerial staff.